Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Livepeer water cooler chat, where we talk about all things Livepeer. If you are just joining us in the audience, please go ahead and put up your hand. You can join us on stage, and we can talk about all things Livepeer. It doesn't really matter if you're an orchestrator, delegator, broadcaster, or just anyone in the community interested in learning more about Livepeer. Come up and have a conversation. It's open to everyone. Today's water cooler chat is being recorded and probably posted on Nightnode's YouTube channel. And we'll go ahead and get started with introductions. Today we don't have a guest speaker, so it'll just be a regular water cooler chat where we will go over topics and have a conversation. So let's go ahead and get started with the introductions. I'll start with myself. My name is Titan. I go by Titan. And I run the Nightnode pool orchestrator since May of 2021. So it's almost been a year, coming up on almost a year for running this orchestrator. And my topic today is going to be about the startup grant and the change I made to requiring 0% fee cut and the repercussions and benefits of doing such. And seeing how that has changed things. So that is one of my topics, and we will go through that in a little bit. So I will move on to the next person. Nightnode, do you want to introduce yourself and a topic?
Name's Nightnode. I run Nightnode. I've been doing this since September or so. And the thing I do want to talk about is the reward cut being set to 0, and also sometimes the negative effects of that. Even though I did just get staked, I think there is some things that could possibly be negative from it. That's the thing I want to talk about.
Very cool. Thank you so much for joining us. Papa Bear, would you like to introduce yourself on a topic?
Sure, I am Papa Bear. I run Solar Farm. I've had my own orchestrator running since July of last year. I am also a member of the Titan Pool and Livepool, so I have some pool experience from the other side. And I am actually topicless today. I'm just here to kind of see what's going on.
Cool. Just listening. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Ftkuhsman, would you like to introduce yourself on a topic?
Yeah, hey guys. Joey here, owner and operator of the Ftkuhsman pool. Wanted to talk about a couple things today, actually. For everybody using Route 53, like GeoDNS, curious if they're experiencing some of the same issues I am. We can talk about that a little bit. I also met with the owner of one of the GPU rental services online. I don't know if you all have heard of TensorDoc, but they may have some deals that orchestrators may be interested in. So.
Very cool. Yeah, that's a good topic. I'd like to get into that a little bit too, and just the accumulation of GPU resources in general. Thank you for joining us, Ftkuhsman. Hunter with Livepeer, would you like to introduce yourself and a topic?
Hey, how's it going? For those of you who don't know me, I'm Hunter. I work on product for the Livepeer network. I don't really have a topic today. I'll just chime in as necessary.
Cool. Thank you so much for joining us. And we have Chase Media. Would you like to introduce yourself on a topic?
Hey everyone, Chase Media here. I've been involved since about May last year with Node 2, and I rebranded the node. And this morning, I kind of wouldn't mind just opening a bit of a conversation. It's fairly self-explanatory, I'm sure, but I was curious about all the chatter about people setting up GPUs in BPS locations, and I understand why guys are doing it, but I'd like to just see, are people getting more streams from doing this, or is their goal a higher performance, or is it really just in preparation for potentially the adoption of Livepeer? So just an idea about when maybe people's goals are toward doing those external VPS servers in various locations.
Yeah, that's a great topic. Thank you so much for joining us, Chase. Next, we got Happyowl. Happyowl, would you like to introduce yourself and a topic?
I just have a suggestion for Livepool. In the script, when it is running, we see that there is no date being displayed. So when we open that Livepool command line, we are not able to understand like when the last streaming happened. So and also we see that we are not getting enough tasks. So even if computer is online for like 2 days, I see like only for 5 to 10 minutes we are getting some tasks. So can you like look into this and speak on this? Thanks to.
Very good. So just your mic is a little dull, but what I got out of that was you're in Livepool and you're using the command line interface, and you just wanted to talk about that as well as the stream volume coming through Livepool. Is that correct?
Yeah, stream volume and in the command line interface, we are in the logs. We are not getting date. Since there's no date being shown, we don't know like seeing that command line when the last task came and when it went. So I request the team to add date to that logs.
Interesting point. That's actually a good point. In Nightnode Pool, that might help us as well. But Nico is the owner of Livepool, and he's not here today. But we can definitely pass that on to him and talk about improvements on that. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will continue on and get around to that topic for sure. Next is...
and one more small suggestion.
Mm-hmm. Yes, go ahead.
If there's a POAP for these events, like more people might join. So maybe in future you can look into creating POAPs.
Okay, co-ops for pools?
POAP for the events in our Discord. When you conduct an event, you can give POAPs for the participants. POAP, POAP, proof of attendance protocol is there, right? So you can try to give that so that many people will join.
Okay, yeah, we'll definitely jump into that a little bit later here into the conversation, but those are great topics and great to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, next we have Vires. Vires, would you like to introduce yourself and a topic?
Hey, I'm running the Xerox 525 Transcoder Orchestrator. No big topic from my side.
Very good. Thank you so much for joining us. Cianha with Ultimate Ratio. I want you to introduce yourself and a topic.
Hi everyone, I'm Cianha from Ultima Ratio with Frank, and I have no question and topic tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. And we have Thrice. Thrice, would you like to introduce yourself and a topic?
Hey guys, I'm Ed. I run Garden State Node. Topic, I guess I've been trying to figure out. Just recently got a delegator, and I'm trying to figure out where it actually came from. So if anyone's done that successfully, I've been trying to look through the bond with hint transactions, but haven't been able to find them.
Where to find delegator info for Orchestrator? That is a great question. We definitely jump into that as well, because I think that helps a lot of us understand a bit more about the ecosystem. Oh, and another topic I quickly also wanted to go over, which I didn't mention yet, was improvements for spreading out stake. So improvements for better distribution of stake. And this is going to be my two ideas I have, which we've already talked about in the past, but I'll bring them up again, which is trailing ROI and multi node delegation. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that. Distribution. There we go. Okay, great. I think I got introductions for everyone. If you are in the audience and you want to come join the conversation, please just put up your hand, and we'll invite you up to the stage where we can talk about all things Livepeer. It doesn't matter if you're a delegator, broadcaster, or orchestrator, or just a community member interested interested in learning more about Livepeer, just throw up your hand and I'll invite you up to stage. Okay, let's start off with the first topic, what happens to be a bit of my topic, a bit of my Nightnode's topic, and some general discussion in Discord, which I'd like to cover first, which is first, the startup grant, setting the requirement to 0% fee cut, what implications that has had, and other orchestrators that have gotten massive amount of stake from doing so. So I want to open the floor. I guess we'll start with Nightnode. And your experience with setting your... Papa Bear has had this, and I think some other people too, Ftkuhsman. You guys want to talk about your fee cuts set to 0, the experience you've had, and what maybe side effects, good and positive, you think would come from that?
Sure. Yes. So I ended up getting staked like about 65,000 or so LPT. And I don't know, like the setting the reward cut to 0, right? Basically, what that's done is it's changed about 27 delegators or orchestrators now have a fee cut of 0, right? When we're looking to move around stake, and I get you started at 0, right? But the thing is, it basically creates this baseline of set it at 0, and if you go above that, the chances of getting anything is going to be a lot harder, right? So for people who even have 0.25%, like Sundara has 0.25%, and like that could seriously hurt his chances of getting a delegator, because like, I mean, and I know you originally, when you set it at 0 and then you increased it, like you were at 100,000 LPT and then you dropped down by moving it, but it kind of now locks you in to the 0% move, where if you feel like if you're going to go, and that's what I'm trying to find the person to be like, if I ever move this, are you going to leave? Like, because it kind of locks you in. You're at 0%, which means I have to float like 3 VPS servers off of a 65% reward cut. You know, so it basically means I could possibly just be operating this for someone who has 1.6 million dollars in LPT stake to me running it for costs at a lot of time spent. So that's the negative side of it. It's just that it becomes the new standard. Everybody is going to be looking at like this, almost has to be 0% fee cut to be competitive, which is not fee cut, reward cut, sorry. Which might be a negative thing in the long term, especially for people who are doing this for like either at a loss or at a very thin margins.
Yeah, interesting. Does anyone else want to comment on that?
I think that, first of all, we're not really at an equilibrium in the market yet. And I would add that as fees play a larger role in the ROI for delegators, I think the situation is going to become a lot more nuanced. I do agree that right now the situation with the grant requirements has probably depressed LPT cuts a little bit, but I don't know that that's like a bad long-term thing. I think that really remains to be seen as the market develops.
Like, one thing that I would like to do, but I'm actually just like straight up afraid. Like, I don't know what the reason. Honestly, like I put a ton of effort into like creating a website, making myself stable, creating multiple VPSs, like, getting my capacity from 13 streams to like 89. Not that I'm ever gonna hit it, but the point being is like I put a lot of effort into doing that, and now it's like I set a 65% fee cut, but for someone who's staking $1.6 million and making $750 a day, in comparison, when I win a winning ticket, right, they're gonna take like $100 something of that twice a month. But now I'm like, can I change that? Be like 95%, because now I need to pay for my servers. I'm at 0%. But I'm also at the same time, I'm like, do I want to lose all of that for changing my fee cut. It just puts it in a weird perspective. Like I'm locked right now. That's what my goal in the long term is: get a bunch of small delegators, 100 LPT, 1,000 LPT, something like that, where then if I make a change, I'm not losing like 99.9% of what I had delegated to me. So.
Well, I mean, the other thing to consider is that, I mean, I don't know how much you had staked personally to your node, but I'm going to guess obviously it was a fraction of that. And like, what were you making in LPT from your reward cut as it stood? I mean, and the other option, or the other follow up to that is, you can unstake some of yours and then stake it from an external wallet and still be actually making some inflationary rewards on another, on your other wallet too. So there's that option too. But I obviously understand what you're saying. I mean, I'm in a similar situation. But again, I wasn't really making like not very much off of my reward cut. I mean, I had it set pretty low anyway. So
yeah,
I'm kind of hoping that the fee cut helps out, and we'll see where things go. That's kind of where I kind of sit on this right now. But I'm happy to have the stake and more work right now and see if I can turn that into more.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm very appreciative to have what I have. I just think for a lot of the people that weren't so fortunate to get what I got, it puts them in a position where it's like, because a part of it's like you're not going to be getting like 10,000. I mean, maybe they would $10,000 a year in Ethereum fees and everything, but a lot of it can come from like a lot of people want to grow that LPT stake, and to basically make the default ideology that's 0% or good luck. Like I think like even if you set it for like we want a 1% fee cut, like at least that means that like the person who does gets the grants or whatever, they can still benefit and grow their stake a little bit alongside of it. And then if some major delegator comes in, that delegator knows they're going to pay something, right? It makes it a lot harder of a conversation, especially when it's all anonymous, for changing that fee from 0 to upward. I think who was it? Marco. He had a fee cut at 0. He got like 44,000 staked to him. He changed it to like, I don't know, 2%, something like that. Person left. No, he's changed it to 4%. Person left like within like 5 minutes of him changing. So just a little uneasy. That's all. I don't know. But I do think that this is a good thing for me particularly, but and also just as a side note too, me and Authority Null, we basically share 3 of our servers together. We split majority of all of that, and just for people who are curious with smaller stakes, how stake affects your streams. When he got the 5,000, before this he had like 390 LPT, I had 370. Our averages were about the same. It was like probably about 1.5 average streams per day. He got 5,000. He jumped up to like 3 average. I went down because basically his latency was my latency. I went down to sub 1, and then now that I'm at 65 and he's at 55, we're basically, right now he has 8 streams. I have 2. But now it's like the streams are actually pretty similar now. He's beating me in streams exactly right now, but it seems like the jump from 300 to 5,000 made a big difference.
How many people here are a part of other delegated proof of stake protocols?
I am.
So I just wanted to comment real quick that like I'm in maybe 3 or 4 other ones, and like Livepeer is probably the most wonky of them all pre Arbitrum, with like fee cuts and reward cuts being like double digits, right? Every other protocol that didn't have the fee problem of calling daily reward naturally met an equilibrium about like sub 4, sub 5%, right? So like I wonder if Livepeer is growing up, it's maturing. It's like, oh, you actually have delegators, external delegators that are chasing low fees, whereas before we really didn't. And I wonder if this is actually a positive thing of the ecosystem growing up. In a way, if there's one way of looking at it, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at like Solana, or I mean, I use Solana a lot just because I like the way that their validation stuff works. But if you look at like Solana or Matic or other proof of stake stuff, yeah, their fee cuts are very low. Like I came over from the Livepeer from the graph, and the guy that I'm delegated to there has like a 4% fee cut. But the other thing too is also volume's way larger, right? Like, I mean, this guy that I'm staked to is just a single guy, and he has like $400 million staked. So 4% is still like nuts. Solana, like I think the top 100 delegator in there still has like $40 million or something staked on. So you got a 3-5% fee cut on that stuff is like totally reasonable. Not to say that Livepeer stuff isn't reasonable. Like, I mean, even before you had changed the cut, I think I set it at 10, and then I dropped it to 5, and then when you guys were talking about going to 4, I moved it to 4, and then like the next day you came out with 0. But like 4% on Vires is a good reward. I mean, that rewards him for his time. I don't think it really needs to be anything like 20%, stuff like that. I think that puts us in a good place now. I mean, if you can get to around like the 1 to 5% affordably, profitably.
It's interesting. Now, the real question is, if I didn't set that to 0, would the stake have still chased people at 0? Because there are some people at 0 without me setting the requirement to this pool to 0.
Yeah, without knowing who did it and why, it's guessing, right? Like maybe they liked Papa Bear's initiative, or like that he's green. Maybe they liked my website. You never know.
And I would add that you're going to always have like delegator community is not homogenous. You'll have people that actively manage their stake. You'll have people that just set it and forget it. So I think reading a lot into individual behavior is kind of a dead end.
That too is there's a good chance that potentially the person that delegated to you is Livepeer Inc. In which case, I think that has actually been one of the side effects of confusion. Is Livepeer Inc. delegates to people that they see is beneficial to the community, and then what happens is there's skewed results, because some people have their fee cuts really high, but the delegator doesn't really care about fee cuts because it's just Livepeer Inc. And then some people have fee cuts very low, and it's a real genuine actor who's chasing fees. And so if you set it up to 0 to 0.5%, they're going to go, oh, I change. And yet...
So I want to jump in here, because I think this is a point that I've heard several community members bring up, and I don't think it's really an accurate interpretation of the situation. It's from my understanding, and I want to preface this by saying that like Livepeer Inc. is a private company, so it's not really likely that there will ever be much visibility into how it manages its stake. But to my understanding, this is not something where we are unduly putting our fingers on the delegation market on fee and reward cuts. I will say that, like many other delegators in the ecosystem, the high fees on L1, did impact the decision making. But I just wanted to put that out there because I know this is something that's been flying around a lot, and I think that I'm happy to answer a little bit more. But as I mentioned, this is a a scenario where live pairing stake is private private information, except to the extent that you can figure it out from the chain.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Which unlocks, I mean, the whole layer 2 movement has unlocked a lot of opportunities, so that's probably the most important thing. But I guess the real question is, I set this startup grant requirement to 0%, and unknowingly, I kind of maybe set off a bit of a chain reaction, at least a mini one, and one of the positive side effects is some of the people that aren't even current grant winners have all of a sudden received large amounts of stake, and we're getting exactly what we were been asking for, which is distribution of stake. So like that's been there's no doubt that there's been a massive distribution of stake to high performing orchestrators, right? That is definitely happened. The side effect, though, is that the reward cut is 0 because I set it in the startup grant, and everyone now competes with that. And the problem with that is it's just probably not sustainable for people to run orchestrators with that set to 0. So, one of the positives is that we're achieving our goal of high performing orchestrators getting stake. The cost of that is maybe those high performing orchestrators aren't receiving the rewards that maybe they deserve. But does anyone have a plan on how we could slowly increase that? Or maybe I should change the startup grant to just set it to 4% or something? Where's the damage done?
I mean, my plan was probably once I get a decent enough individual delegators later on to then announce or pull out, like, are you guys okay with me going up to 4% or 3% or whatever, and see if I get feedback on it, and then try to move from there. But it would probably it wouldn't be anytime soon. I don't want to wake the bear right now. So
why don't the grant sponsors specify what they're willing to accept as a reward share if they're going to put up their stake? Or does that just complicate it too much?
I mean, I feel like when Dob, I don't know if I read it wrong, but it seemed like when Dob read that you wanted at 0, like he almost was like, oh, we're doing that, like we're gonna let them rely instead on getting winning tickets to fund their growth as opposed to reward cut to fund the growth. So it seemed like he was like, oh, like that's how we're gonna do it.
He did, and I rebutted with, well, without any sponsors, we won't get any. There is no grant. And then what ended up happened to, yeah, like it's funny because I don't know. The whole thing has had a weird side effect because only one person has received stake from the startup grant, and that's been Ftkuhsman. And then everyone else has gotten stake that isn't even in the startup grant, and so, but yet it's somehow related to the startup grant. So I wonder if, like, the real question is, if the startup grant didn't say to go to 0, would the same orchestrators have received that amount of stake or any stake? And the real question is, would you rather have a large amount of stake with a 0% fee cut, or a very low amount of stake with a high fee cut? A reward cut, I should say. Right? Because just, to have a high amount of stake with a high reward cut is the biggest challenge, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, I started. One of the reasons for the startup grant setting it to 0 is because that's what I did, and that's what made me successful. Is I started with 0 and I ate those fees for 6 months. I ate L1 fees for 6 months. I spent 20,000 US on gas at 0%, 0, in order to attract stake. I'm not saying that's what everyone should do, but it incentivized me to go from being a nobody in the network to having 128,000 stake and getting up there with a lot of the very high staked orchestrators. And then when I set my fees to what I planned on setting them after my 6-month teaser, I lost 2/3 of it. But that's okay because I'm very happy with the stake that I did keep, and that was a sacrifice. So, I mean, that was one of the ideas was, people chase low fees. There's no argument on that. And it worked for me, and so maybe it can work for someone else, right? And a lot of people are in the very early stages, the first couple days that they receive a large stake, and so it makes them nervous. They don't want to increase the fees. They don't, they want to know who it is. It's very exciting actually. But that because it means something has happened. And so, I think that's a positive thing actually. At some point there's going to be an equilibrium, especially as the network increases in fees from ETH fees. I'm hoping that in the future, ETH fees will have a bigger impact than the reward cut, because there'll be more incentive for people to chase ETH fees than there is LPT fees.
I am curious about that future, right? So right now, granted, yes, we do have like one main person, like main broadcaster that's paying like last 7 days $13,000 in fees, right? But that's spread across the few that have gotten the tickets. Like, if you're looking at somebody with $10 million stake to them, and is Livepeer really expecting the churn on fees to be like where someone who's staking $10 million is going to be getting a decent reward on Ethereum fees? That seems to be that would be a lot of changeover, right? Compared to reward calls. Like getting like $40,000 on a 10, like say for example, right? Like if you're going to be able to do $10,000 in Ethereum fees in a year, but you have $1 million stake to you, that's what, less than 1% return.
Sure. If you're looking at it in US dollar terms and the current price of Livepeer, but you could also say that Livepeer is overvalued based on that, right? So then you could say, well, but people buying Livepeer are not probably basing it on current returns, right? They're basing it on future returns. So you have, just like any startup, there's no profits until there's adoption, and then once there's adoption, the profits are expected to follow, and so that's the premium you pay today for the profits in that you're expecting in the future. So the target market of Livepeer is a $53 billion transcoding bill per year. I think that's what it was. I can't remember. I have to double check if that was the actual amount. Probably not 53 billion. It's on the Livepeer primer. If someone can correct me on that. But if you were to come in and take in say half the transcoding work off the internet and do it through Livepeer, all of a sudden, a $1 billion market cap is cheap for the amount of work it does, right? So I guess it just depends. Like, Livepeer right now does the same revenue as a high efficient laundromat in the east side of Vancouver, right? But it has the capabilities of doing the revenue of Google ad services, if or Amazon web services for transcoding, like it, so people are betting on that future. So they're foregoing ETH fees now in order to try obtain ETH fees in the future, right? And when that happens, the fee cut on the ETH fees will then really start to kick in, and will probably really change the dynamic of all of it, right?
Yeah. Hey, also, by the way, Shan has her hand raised.
Oh no, that's me inviting her up.
Oh.
But she hasn't accepted. Also, she has the ability to just bring herself in, so there's no reason for me to put her hand up. Oh, there she is.
Hey, I actually have COVID and I'm really sick, so I'm just listening. Yeah.
Sorry.
Hope you feel better soon. Well, Shan, did you want to introduce yourself in a topic, or are you good?
Yeah. Yeah, Shan from the Livepeer core team. And yeah, I'm sorry I've been absent for so long. I've missed some really heated weeks, it seems. So I'm just really getting caught up and here to listen to what people are talking about.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you feel better soon. I'm sure everyone here at the Livepeer community wishes you well as you get over COVID. I've had it. I know a lot of people that have had it, and it can be difficult for some. So hopefully you've got the lesser of the symptoms, and we wish you well. Thanks for joining us.
Love you all. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I mean, the whole zero cut side effects, proof of stake, that's been very interesting. Do we want to make any last comments on that before we move on? I'm sure we can wrap around and talk about this again. But there's other topics we can dive into this call. Does anyone want to finish some thoughts on that?
I mean, I'll just add that. I mean, overall, when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh God, zero." But getting stake now and having a much larger stake than I had going into this, or before I received like a big chunk, I'm happier overall than I was before. So at least for now, I am happy I lowered my stake to zero and I'm getting more work, and I'll just, like I said, just kind of wait and see where it goes. But I wouldn't, if I could reverse it and not have done it and not gotten the stake, I wouldn't do that. I'm much happier with the stake and the 0% reward cut. So that's where I stand on it right now.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm not like appreciative for the stake that I have. Like, I'm glad I got it. I didn't expect to get it, but I just didn't want to like be like, fuck you all, I got this shit and I'm gone. Like, I understand for people who are still, that don't have that it could be bothersome. So that's why I wanted to bring that up.
Well, the other thing is, because it's an open and free market, other people can choose not to choose zero. Other people will choose to choose zero, and the real question is, would that stake have gone after zero stake people anyway? And I suspect that would be true, because there were a couple orchestrators at zero. So I think delegated proof of stake, amongst other protocols that I've been in, I mean, there's people out there that go online every day and change their delegated node, whether you're in Cardano, Polkadot, Avalanche, Solana, like any of these, they chase 0% fees every day. And people can complain in those protocols, but like at the end of the day, that's just how free markets work. People are free to choose. And so I think Livepeer is just growing up and starting to see actors like that, and that is exciting, because that means that there's adoption. I mean, the community is growing. Look at this water cooler chat. Started off with just me and maybe 2-3 people, and so it's definitely growing. So you're going to have people come in and do lots of interesting things. So I think overall it's exciting to see that growth. Let's move on though, and we can come back to this if we'd like. Let's talk about Ftkuhsman. You talked about what Route 53 issues and GPU rental services. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit and dive into that topic?
Yeah, so one of the issues I've been experiencing with Route 53 is I'll update the policy record with a new traffic policy, and like it correctly routes the traffic for a short period of time, and then like it reverts back to some type of previous state. Like there's something going on with the DNS resolution. So if I've got a server in Frankfurt and I'm trying to route traffic from Frankfurt to that server, when I initially update the policy record and ping my domain name from that server, I see it responds back with the Frankfurt server. But then after a short period of time, it starts showing me that it's actually talking to my US server. So I'm just wondering if anybody else has experienced that, or if there's a setting I need to tweak to make that work.
I'd be curious to look at your records to see how you have them set up. Also, and since we're talking about Route 53 too, if I can add on to that as well. For A records, if you're doing like GeoDNS, can I set 2 IP addresses for like, say for New York, I have 2 different servers in that area. Can I just do 2 IP addresses one after another, or do I need to do like a weighted different URL and then put that in as an alias under New York?
If you're using Route 53, you can do like health check, like say you want your New York to be routed to that area, and you have 2 nodes in that area. You can do a weighted, or you can do like a failover. So you can prioritize one over the other, or you can just do weighted so that it weights them and selects them. Does that answer your question, I think?
Yeah, kind of. And I can message you about this after if you want. Just because you could put in multiple IP addresses under an A record, and if you do a DNS check, it shows those IP addresses. I just don't know how it's distributing across multiple IP addresses there. Previously, I had it where I had like node.nj.nightnode.net as weighted with 2 different IP addresses, and then I put that in for like New York default, stuff like that. And then that way, if it pinged the default location, it would then go to my weighted record and then do like a 50-50 split.
Yeah, when you ping a record, it only comes back with 1 IP, so you don't get a list of IPs, and that IP is just simply based on what the rule is, right? Yep. So yeah.
It's just if you do like, what I'm talking about is if you went to do like DNS checker, it does show multiple. Actually, yeah, you're right. I can. I'll just do a bunch of ping tests. Actually, I should answer my question.
If you if you're doing a weighted rule 50-50, just ping it like 4 times, and then 2 statistically will come out 1, and 2 will come out the other.
Going back to sticking with the Route 53. What is the actual? Did we ever get to what the difference between actually using a traffic policy versus you just changing the using geolocation within the hosted zones? I think it's hosted zones area of the of Route 53. I just I couldn't get the traffic policy to work, and then I just by chance came across just adding geolocation to the hosted zones, and it seems to work problem free. So it's cheaper, and I don't know if there's anything I'm missing out on by not going with the traffic policy.
I think the $50 a month drag and drop interface is for dummies like me who don't know how to use A records, and so you can just put them in the A record, or here, use this drag and drop method, and we'll charge you $50 a month for it. Like,
I mean, the other one is honestly, the other one was to me it was it was the easier option. That's why I ended up with it, because I couldn't get the traffic policy to seem to stick for whatever reason. So I was just wondering. So I mean, does anyone know, like, actually though, is there a difference? I mean, you get geolocation records, and all it seems like all the same abilities.
I only looked at it briefly through like screenshots, and it seems like you kind of can add a flow to it of how you want the records to act. That would be good for visualization.
You're talking about.
Yeah,
I think
that'd just be good for.
I think for the routing, there's a lot of because there's a lot of failover stuff that you might not be able to get in just the A record. Like, if you're like it gets. I started digging into it, and it get, like the diagram that you can use can get really complicated. Depending on how intense you want it. And I feel like maybe there's just some specific degree of complexity that you can do with the interface that you can't do with just setting an A record. But for our purposes, I don't think we use it. So honestly, you might as well just save your money.
Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, it works for me, so that's why I'm just sticking with it. And I haven't gone really deep into it. I don't even have health checks or any of that stuff running. And I mean, I have a default, like, if a server isn't available, I guess it will go to my default server. But other than that, it's pretty much just it's just been running. So, Ftkuhsman, I'm assuming you're using a traffic policy.
I am, yeah.
And you're saying, and I kind of tuned out for 1 second. Did you said it, and it seems to be like reverting back to something other than what you had it set to?
Yeah, it seems.
I'm just trying to understand what the issue is.
Yeah, it just seems like the policy is not persisting. Like, it updates, and then a couple minutes later, it supposed to be routing traffic to a specific geolocation, but it routes it to a different one. I just don't understand why.
Is that with Route 53?
Yeah.
Maybe try the hosted zone thing and see if it works out better.
I might have to.
Again, I don't know how complex you're trying to make it, but I mean, it seems like there's quite a bit of stuff you can do through the hosted zone thing. I mean, it's got all kinds of stuff that I haven't even touched. I mean, yeah,
my setup is fairly straightforward. It's just it's geolocation using coordinates of the servers. Like, I don't have any health checks set up, so like, even if the server's down,
I would give the hosted zone thing a try. I mean, like,
yeah.
I couldn't get traffic policy to stick for me. So
one of the things is when you say it's routing to a different location, is it based? Are you using like the DNS checker globally, or are you like specifically pinging an area, like say New York, and you have that area for New York, and it's not staying within New York?
Yeah, I'm pinging my domain name from the orchestrator, like from the server that I expect it to route to. So like, I would ping Ftkuhsman.com from my Frankfurt server and expect it to return my Frankfurt server's IP address, and it's not.
Maybe your server is not in Frankfurt.
I mean,
that's the only thing I can think of.
I've specifically, I'm paying for a server in Frankfurt, and like, I look up the IP address, like IP info of the address, and it shows that it's in Frankfurt.
I was paying for a server in New York City, and I randomly just did like where is this IP coming from, and it was like Buffalo, New York, which is, yes, it's in New York, but it's not New York City, and it was like I was closer to New York City than it was for that server, so I was actually losing latency by going to that. So Frankfurt might be like a loose term that they might be using. But
I guess my thing is, like, the servers I have are all very well spread out, though. So it's not a situation where I've got two servers that are, not even within like 500 miles of each other, right? I mean, it's well beyond that. So I could see where you're talking about might be an issue, but I mean, the distance is so much larger.
If you want, I can, after the call, we can go and take a look at your stuff and see if there's anything that looks different. Oh.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
Great. We have someone else joining us. Fiom.
Yeah,
Is it?
it just your microphone is like super low. That's why we were talking over you.
Yeah, Fiom, do you want to just introduce yourself and a topic if you would like, or you just chime in on the conversation?
Hello?
Hello? Oh, maybe he's just,
Yeah. Hello?
Yes,
There you
we
go.
can hear you.
Sorry about that. I don't know if you heard me, but I was just saying that sometimes there's a lot of factors that sometimes, IP addresses can be registered to say in one location and not exactly be where you think you're going to be. The IP databases aren't always accurate, especially something with like Buffalo, New York, and New York City.
Yeah. Specifically, after I found out that it was in Buffalo, I had them transfer it to a location closer, and my latency dropped by like 6x. So you could tell it was definitely reaching a further distance beforehand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely can be that as well, but
I don't think that's what's going on with Ftkuhsman though. Just
No.
like you said, we're talking about some big distances there.
He's actually, and his score is actually really good anyway. So it's not. It'd just be something that we can look into.
Ftkuhsman, are streams coming in from Livepeer ingest server into your Frankfurt server? Because really, at the end of the day, that's the only thing that matters.
I think so. Quite frankly, I'm having a lot of issues in Europe at the moment. And I don't think it has anything to do with Livepeer. I think it's the setup, the transcoder that my partner has in Poland. So I don't know. I got to look into it further.
You have a 100% success rate, but 6.7 on for latency, so something's messing you up.
What, say that again?
Your success rate's 100, but at least on the test score, right? At least on the tests. But then your latency is a little bit lower. But...
Yeah, if you're getting 100% on your success rate, then the geolocating is working just fine.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, technically it might not be, because it could be sending it to not your nearest. Like if the geolocating is not sending it to Frankfurt, but maybe it's getting sent to New York.
Which would make sense why his latency score would be a little bit lower.
So, yeah. But are you getting streams through your Frankfurt node? Like, are you getting work through it?
Yes, I have been. I'm having a really bad latency issue between the virtual O and the T. So I think that is a separate and unique issue. But I mean, I guess it does seem like I'm getting traffic. So maybe it is working and I'm just...
I mean, how fast is that sounds like a transcoder issue, because I have that all the time with my pool, is I have to kick people out that aren't fast enough. Like, I have people that are like 8 milliseconds away from my orchestrator node, but they literally are transcoding, it seems like, on a potato. Like they send it back slower than it arrives. It's like, man, I don't even know how this is possible. Like, and they can't figure it out and I can't figure it out, and I kick them out of the pool anyway, because it's just not worth my time. Because it's like, well, you either have your internet provider is bad, your computer is busted, like it's just, who knows.
Yeah, I think we might be dealing with an internet provider issue, because I don't know what happened. It's only recently that this seems to be an issue. And I mean, the transcoder is, I mean, it's definitely a good bit of distance away from the virtual O, but like the latency lately has just been like double or triple what it has been, and we're just trying to troubleshoot and figure out what the heck's going on. But I thought maybe it had something to do with the resolution of my domain name, but I guess the fact that we're still getting work means that's likely not the issue. So
yeah.
We'll keep playing around with it.
Make sure your node is using the orc address, IP address and port, not the domain and port.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
no,
was a big recommendation.
It is.
Okay, cool. Chase, did you had a comment about GPUs, renting GPUs, and we're kind of on that topic right now because Ftkuhsman was talking about GPU rental services. Would you like to just elaborate on what your question was, and we'll keep on going on that topic?
Hi there, thank you. Yes, I was just curious as to see the main angle that guys are aiming to get from renting GPUs and or servers. Is it obviously the latency will be improved? So is it mainly to improve latency, and then if so, are they getting more streams from that, or is it solely to try and improve performance and therefore get higher up on the leaderboard, or is it really for future testing for the hopefully adoption of the Livepeer protocol, and therefore a lot more work to come in and therefore be kind of ready for it? So just wondering the aims that guys have, or if it's all three of those items or one or two in particular, and if they're getting more work because of these actions. Thank you.
A big person that could comment on that is actually Papa Bear. He got up.
I was going to
real
say,
quick.
so I because I'm on the west coast of the states, I'm so far from everything else that my latency was just terrible to basically anything other than Los Angeles, which didn't tend to get a lot of work. So as an experiment, I put one on the East Coast where I know there's a lot more work, and I definitely picked up a lot more work just by doing that without having any mistake or anything. That being said, it was right around the time where there was some kind of like I don't know if it was a bug is the right term, but something was going on with the selection process where it seemed to be favoring lower staked orchestrators over the higher staked orchestrators like it normally does. So I don't know how much of that was for that reason. And then after that kind of got repaired, then I got more stake. So it's hard for me to really say that the reason I'm getting more work is because I have orchestrators with GPUs located globally now, but I am getting more. But it's hard to because of those two other issues that happened during the time. I don't have like a flat line comparison to say, but most of my work does come from those from not from my local setup here in Los Angeles.
And to add on to that, so for example, like the main thing that you're looking for when you're going to a VPS is to just improve on like the necessary things, bandwidth and capacity, and latency. So like for example, Authority basically went off of his house, but he had early in December and November, he was getting like number 2, number 3 in the leaderboard just based off his house. So if you're at home and you have like a gig connection and you get fine scores and latency and everything, then there's no reason to then be like, well, I need to move to a VPS, right? It's just about if you go to a VPS, you're basically going to get a public IP address with a gig connection, and then you can range up or down on the other resources like RAM, hard drive space, and processor. So you can go there if you want to, but if your stuff's at home and you're getting fine stuff out of there, then you don't have to really pay to add on if you don't want to.
I think being in New York is is probably one of the best places to live to be able to operate out of your house.
For sure.
Because again, you're close to both East Coast, U.S. East Coast areas, and you can still get good scores to Europe. But the further you get from like that center area, I think the more benefit you get from having a remote server somewhere.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. That's yeah, I'll just carry on as I am then, because that's yeah. It was interesting to see, you know, like you said, Papa Bear, that it's hard to determine whether you were gaining more streams because of your New York server or not. But that would be a great test, wouldn't it? But yeah,
I can
thank
say
you
this:
all for
most of the
chiming in.
work I do get comes from those remote servers, not from my server here in LA. So, so there is something to be said for that. That I guess, but also on that hand, I'm not routing much to LA anymore, except for LA work. So, I mean, I did used to get, you know, because I was only in LA, my orchestrator was only in LA. I was getting work from Chicago and New York. So now that's been cut. Now that no longer goes to LA. So again, it also makes it harder to judge how much of an increase. But New York for me right now is where the bulk of my work comes from, or not New York, my New York server, which gets work from Chicago and New York. But from what I've seen, most of it's coming from Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay, thank you.
I don't know if that helps, but that's what I've seen.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just wondering too about the for people renting GPUs. Do you see it as being profitable? And if it doesn't become profitable, or like what degree of profitability do you need to rent GPUs? Like what? Yeah.
For like a RTX 4000, you're looking at like $270 a month for Chicago. You could get like $200 a month in California, or around like 200 to 250 in New York. Lithuania, you could get like 175. Frankfurt, like 168 for like I think you could get 1080 in Frankfurt for 168. So basically, all you need to do is for each one of those regions to somehow push out a winning ticket, and then you'll pay for that region. But you have to roll, basically.
I did try the Lithuanian servers, and the latency there wasn't great.
No, yeah.
Just throwing that out there if anyone's thinking about that. It wasn't terrible, but it's much better at being in Amsterdam.
I will say at the 50% fee cut that I have right now, it's not profitable.
Yeah.
But like the node definitely makes enough in fees to pay for it, but like 50% is not going to be sustainable unless traffic significantly increases.
I'm definitely not profitable. This is hoping this works out kind of thing.
Same.
He's just volunteering for the network right now.
Yeah, like my pool partner and I basically just agreed, like we're not taking any of the fees right now. We're just, whatever we make, we're just going to use it to pay the GPU rentals and hope that things work out.
Yeah, that was like part of the argument before for taking the reward cut. It's like, I mean, for my costs aren't as high because I do live in New Jersey, so I have like my New Jersey, max sessions is like 60 something sessions, right? But it's still like 200, 250 a month to just keep and that's with splitting with authority. Like if I took on Chicago by myself, it would be $270, and then if I took on Frankfurt by myself, it'd be 168. So you'd be looking at almost a $400 a month base cost plus calling rewards and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was one of my scaling questions when I was buying GPUs and adding them to my node was how does this scale? And that's why I went with the pool route, because I wanted to see if it was scalable without having to take on the overhead. So that's been the one of the motivations for building a pool. Because renting GPUs didn't really make sense to me in the long term. Maybe in the short term it probably actually makes sense, but in the long term, and then buying up GPUs, I wasn't overly interested in buying up hardware. So yeah, especially a hardware that's like pretty rare or pretty overpriced right now.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
no, go ahead.
so we picked up TensorDoc, and for example, like the site that I have in LA, which I didn't pick up, but they have a RTX 4000 for $183 a month. The GPU itself is $99 a month. TensorDoc is charging $200 a month for the GPU itself. Right, so they are a little bit of a markup, and I know I think they came out with a deal for Ftkuhsman, if you want to talk about that, but I it is not cheap to do it.
Yeah, so I talked to one of the, I guess, system engineers there over the weekend, and basically the deal they offered me was they actually have a, I don't know if it's a data center or what, in Boston, Massachusetts, where it's actually all GPUs that they own and for their like mining operations and everything else. Like, I'm renting a 1070 from them for $100 a month, but it's only in Massachusetts. Like that can't get that anywhere else. It's got to be in Massachusetts. So
is that something you had to reach out to them to get? Or
yeah,
like you could just find it? Yeah. So, and then the other thing I'm curious about is like, how does that affect, what's the latency to the New York and just nodes and Chicago and stuff like that?
yeah, it hasn't been.
Out.
We lost you.
Give it another 24 hours and I'll have a much better idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean,
Transcode scores on Grafana are like off the charts, but I don't know what.
Yeah.
We'll
I mean, there's like me and Authority, we definitely like scaled. Like once we saw Papa Bear, like he came to New York and he's like top of the leaderboard. I was like, fuck, all right, let's go to Europe and stuff. And I had California for a little bit. But before all of this, for like 4 or 5 months, we were just doing it from one location, and that worked out fine. But now it's a little bit more competitive. So, the same thing with you for Ftkuhsman is just maybe you just try to break even and outlast.
That's kind of where we're at. Now, I will say I talked to TensorDoc about like volume and like time commitment options. So like the best deal they could do was for minimum of $1,000 a month, right? So for $1,000 a month, they would rent 8 RTX 4000s, which, I mean, the per unit cost on that is great. I think it's like $125 a month per card, but I don't need 8 of them in one location.
Yeah.
So
is anybody coloing any servers? I know we used to have a guy in here, like in the beginning. You had like 10 GPUs sitting in a colo somewhere. But I mean, I'm curious to see what's the startup cost of getting like 2 to 3 GPUs in a server rack. Then you can go colo for like $100 a month, like, because you're gonna pay $270 a month for an RTX 400 or 4000. I mean, you're paying like $3,000 a year, right? Is your startup cost $3,000? So
Titan, didn't you look into that?
Yeah, I did a deep dive into colo. Obviously, I'm not a colo expert by any means, but what I came across was they don't give you enough power to generate to run GPUs in like really tight spaces, and so therefore you run into just a power issue, because the NVIDIA cards are not power efficient at all. They don't try to be, because they're for consumer grade, like just people gaming. So like there's tons of extra stuff, and there's CUDA cores and all the fans and all this stuff. So they don't really try to be power efficient. So if you only get like 120 watts per unit, I guess, per rack unit, and one
that's not enough.
GPU takes up to 300, or up to 200, or whatever it is. And then you want to cram 3 of those in there. I'm like, okay. So I called one, and I'm like, hey, like I want to fit 800 watts into one unit. He's just like, no. He's like, I'll sell you 800 watts. Okay, great. I'll sell you 8 units. Here, why don't I sell you a half rack? It's only like $1,000 a month. I'm like, okay, this is not working for me.
Yeah, I think Colo may work if that NetInt stuff gets opened up for Livepeer, because that stuff does run really efficiently.
Yeah,
and you can really cram. I mean, I think those things run like 27 watts a card or something like that.
Aren't those cards like $3,000 a piece though?
I don't know what the cards cost. I know that they have like a promo offer of like $250 for like their small card. But
I can buy their current card is $250, and it does 7 streams, and it takes like 17 watts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's good, but the problem is Livepeer doesn't support it yet. So that's kind of a problem.
It looks like it's coming though, because I mean I've seen some builds that have some like some pre-builds that have some NetInt stuff baked into it. I mean, obviously I haven't tried any of it, but I mean that's again that's if you want to go down the Colo route. I don't think with you're not going to get to do it with an NVIDIA card and make it anywhere even near profitable.
You actually can do it with Tesla cards. Tesla cards actually don't pull that much wattage. I think the M6. I bought an M60, benched it. It can do about 25 to 30 streams, and it only it's slow though. Like it's got a 500 clock speed, so it's not very fast, but it can do 20 to 30 streams, and it only draws something like 150 watts. So you could technically, I guess, fit that into a 1 unit rack space, but then you still got
a lot of those Quadro cards are fairly efficient too. I mean, I've got the RTX, just the regular 4000, not the A4000. I mean, I think idle's at like 7 watts, and I don't think I've ever seen it go above 27 or maybe 40 watts. You know, when it's running full out. But those are relatively efficient.
Yeah, I guess yeah, like you can dumb down your wattage, and the problem with what I ran into is I'm not interested in figuring that out, because I was like, coloing is still $100 a month, and I have to send my own equipment, and I was like, I'm gonna just go with the pool method. I'm gonna figure that out. So that was my solution.
The only thing with going with a pool is that you're gonna eventually just have to start accepting that you're going to take your performance hit, because you can't control every aspect. Like, you could try. I mean, I know you're doing all your benching and stuff like that, and you have minimum requirements, but you're going to take a performance hit. I mean, and that's just the trade-off, is that you'll save money, but you can't control the environment, really.
Well, that's the hope and dream, is to try to control the environment, you know?
Titan's doing a pretty good job of it, I have to say, being in the pool.
I know.
He runs a pretty tight ship on what we'll allow in or not for a public pool.
Yeah, I have so many people. Yeah, Papa Bear doesn't see my blacklist list, but it's pretty long already.
I mean, we've talked about it a little bit, so I mean, I have a taste of what it's like, and I've seen just random comments in your Discord of people who are like, "Hey, I'm at 95 megabits per second. Why can't I? Why am I not in? Gotta be 100."
I actually decreased it for him. But then I have no idea. See, a problem is I'm like, I don't know what's going on with his unit, so it's just not worth my time. Like, oh, okay, dude, if you can't meet the minimum requirements, you're good. You can go to Livepool.
I mean, you have plenty of people in that pool right now to cover what you're doing anyway. So I mean, it's not something.
Oh yeah.
You don't need to have them. You don't need to have hundreds of people in your pool. In fact, it's better probably not to.
Yeah, I got like 7, 8, and I have my total max capacity is like 300-400. It's like, it's really like, it ranges between 200 to 300 max capacity, and that's with people, coming and going, and not even supporting Linux. It only runs on 50% of Windows and doesn't even support Linux, and yet I can handle like tons of max sessions. Like, I've got lots of GPU power, so I don't know. I think the high performance pool is a good goal, and I think it's possible. So that's what I'm going for. My thing has just been the incentive structure. Also, I came out with the Nightnode Livepeer miner, which has been something that I've been toying around with, which is getting those NetInt cards into boxes and selling them.
Did you see? I put my name on that pre-order list.
I did.
I'm ready to try one out.
Dude,
How did you end up going about it?
What?
I think it's still a ways out, but I'll let Titan answer.
What do you mean? How did I go about it, dude? I created a web page saying, "Yeah, I want to sell these."
No. I mean, have you made any progress on figuring out what hardware you're going to use, like how to actually make it work?
Yeah, NetInt cards. I found the way I'm gonna attempt this is there's a $100 motherboard you can buy, and it has it's just it can run Linux, and it has just enough RAM and just enough CPU, and it's one from I don't know where, but anyway, it's a $100 motherboard, and it can run Linux basically. So it's one upgrade from a Raspberry Pi, which just requires a whole bunch. So this is just a motherboard with a PCI slots in it, and then you get a tiny little power supply, maybe 300 watts. You throw 3 NetInt cards in there because they're low power and ASIC, and then you put it into a nice little box with a fan on it, and you pre-install it with some mining software, and you ship it to people. And then, yeah, I mean, but distributing hardware and selling hardware and customer service is a whole nother ball game. But the markup you can make on that is really good, and yeah, I'm sure I can find the thing is, I can probably find a hardware partner that will build these boxes and sell them on my behalf anyway. The key is just having a customer. So I'm trying to figure out if there's demand for this, because people love buying boxes that make them money. It's that's a thing now.
I posted a link to his cool page that he built in the event chat if anyone wants to take a peek.
Oh, it's not it's not HTTPS, but yeah, it's HTTP.
Oh, I just copied what was there. I can.
It's unsafe.
Yeah, because I don't know how to make Grafana work on
Titan.
HTTPS yet, so I haven't updated that.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, anybody mind if I switch
Those
gears?
are some big looking. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. What?
Oh, I was just gonna ask. So, Papa Bear, what is your setup in Singapore?
I just have a VPS there that connects to my EU node.
How close is your EU node to Singapore? You just get really good scores.
Physically, not that close, but it's 150 millisecond ping time. I didn't actually have a conversation with Yondon, but listening in on the was it the open office chat that they do bi-weekly? He was talking about, and then also this was a follow-up to when I opened an issue about people having problems with just their test scores not working well after the migration. That they hard-coded in a 500 millisecond, I guess, max ping time, or I don't remember exactly how he stated it, but so a lot of tests he thinks they could possibly be failing because the ping time results have been lowered from what they used to be. It doesn't really make sense because I mean, again, I was 150 milliseconds to Singapore, and able to reach it before the migration, and then once the migration happened, it wasn't working. So I mean, I just got a small VPS and figured let's see what happens with a quick response from the Singapore server, and then if I relay that, if that works, and it works. I don't get a lot of work there, but I mean, actually I have a stream going right now, and they tend to be higher value than most places. Most of the other streams I see, just like per stream.
Yeah.
Actually,
No, they do
have as
seem to
much
be
work.
higher value, and
Yeah.
we lost our pool partner from Singapore. Like we were really like gun ho there for a little bit, and then now I'm trying to figure out a virtual solution. But
I think we had the
right
same
now I've
person.
reported.
They abandoned me too.
What's that? Yeah, it's like, dude,
we all
what do
know
you?
Helsa.
Yeah, we all know
Yeah, what do
Helsa.
you-
He had
what
the
do you
greatest spot. We like just left one day.
He was such a
It's
pain
like
in the
wants to
ass.
get rich quick or something. I don't know.
Yeah, he was annoying.
But
I wish he would come back.
What I'm doing now seems to be working okay. I actually rented a server on Vast AI out of India, and I run a standalone T that's connecting to a VPS in Singapore. And I mean, I'm down. I'm like 5th or 6th on the leaderboard, but seems to be good enough.
Yeah, I was actually surprised at how well it worked for me. I mean, it's also it's kind of hit or miss. I mean, sometimes it gets like I mean, it'll do like round trip 85 0.85 seconds, and then other times it's a minute and a half. So it's I don't know. I mean, it could just be the VPS that I chose. I don't know, but yeah.
I'm curious. Is anybody else using Vast to rent GPUs?
I was looking at it today, but it's if you want it cheap enough, you're getting like 30 megabits per second, and if you want anything more than that, then you're paying more than going with sensor DAC. So
yeah, I mean I'm paying I think like 30 cents an hour for the GPU in India, which I mean it's the same price as TensorDoc essentially, but there are no good GPU rental options as far as I can tell in Southeast Asia. So
I looked, I couldn't find anything either. That's how I ended up with the solution that I went with. And it may be temporary if they figure out what was going on with the how well actually I mean maybe I don't know. It's not like it's a ton of work coming in through there, but
yeah.
I guess we'll just kind of see how it goes.
It honestly, it just seems like the way forward right now is to just like try to not lose money every month, and hopefully Miss server implementation can bring more traffic in, and we can grow from there, and then eventually in the future, make out pretty good. But it doesn't seem to make a ton of sense to just do multiple GPU servers and drop multiple hundreds of dollars every month for now.
Well, the other thing is too, like if you think about it, it's one of these game theory issues where one orchestrator's on the East Coast, one orchestrator's on the West Coast, and they each get 10 streams, and they go, you know what? I want more streams, so I'm gonna set up a node on the opposite side of the country, and so they both do that, and then they both end up with 5 streams at each location, but because they're each renting a GPU in the opposite location, they're both not making any money. And it's like there is a bit of a game theory where it's like we're trying to scramble to get more global presence, but if nobody scrambled to get more global presence, we would still have the same global presence as a network at much lower cost.
Yeah.
It's definitely getting competitive.
I'm all
I
about
guess,
like
is another way of saying it.
Getting together and saying, hey, you host the GPU over here, I'll host the GPU for you over here. My problem is I live in Tampa, Florida. I'm not close to anywhere, so I haven't approached anybody about that.
I mean that's how like my partnership started too. Was like, I mean, I am in New Jersey. My transcode scores were horrible compared to authorities. So I was like, I'll cut you. Like if you can transcode for me on a GPU that wasn't hitting capacity, then you can spread out your ability to make more money possibly if we win a ticket. Unfortunately for him, we haven't won a ticket yet. But if you're sitting on like, I mean, some people come into into Livepeer or Livepool and be like, I have 8 GPUs, and it's like you're never going to hit that. All right, so it might be within your best interest to then talk to the community members and see, hey, Titan, I'll transcode for you, Vires will transcode for you, Happyowl will transcode for you, and give each person a GPU and work out some kind of percent reward cut or something like that on if you get a ticket.
See, at that point, you might as well just have a big old global pool.
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, I mean,
Well,
basically you're running a pool at that point.
Yeah, I
It
know.
gets
I mean,
complicated to check all that stuff, I'm assuming. Just like how do you decide how much everyone gets paid out and all that kind of.
So the way that I was doing it, and it's definitely not. It has a limitation, and it's not easy. Is like I have a guy in Poland, and if he wins a ticket, he will get a percent cut of that ticket, right? And I'm like, and I've had people be like, well, I want a percent of every ticket. I'm like, well, then here's like 2% of every ticket that's going to come in. They're like, well, that's too low. I'm like, all right, well then take like 35% of a winning ticket. And but it just becomes a lot because it's kind of annoying to do. But and then also there's limitations, right? Like, so say like you get to the point where you're pulling in enough winning tickets where 30. I'm just gonna go and rent a dedicated GPU server. I don't need. Why do I need to go through you and have to deal with that and your home network and everything when I could just go and rent a GPU for the same amount? Probably get better scores. So there are limitations on it. Like I'm about to go drop eventually I'll drop a computer off at Thrice's house.
Thrice, on that topic, Thrice had the topic of where to find delegator information. Do you want to elaborate on what your question is and your solutions, maybe, if you have any?
Yeah, sure. So I got like a surprise delegator, but I found the transaction. I was looking through the bond through Arbiscan, through like the bond with hint for an amount that like matched what I got. But it turns out it doesn't show up because it was a transfer. They I guess moved it from, it looks like they had it delegated to like multiple people, like Chain Flow and J1V. And I don't know who this is, so I'm just digging through their like address trying to find out where it came from.
That address will be the same on the on Etherscan, so you can.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking through now. It's a really, really old address. Like the guy's, I'm assuming it's some guy. Like if you follow it back, he's got like 1,000+ day old transactions.
Yeah, it's the same for mine. It was like 900 to 1,300 days old on most of them, and then it went like the oldest before this was like 75 days, and then 300 days.
Yeah, I mean, I've been advertising on like Arbitrum projects that I'm in. Like every channel will have their like shill or like off topic, so I've just been trying to promote it there. But it doesn't seem like it came from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you got a sizable stake too.
Yeah, you got like an unbelievable amount.
You got a sizable stake with a reward
10%
or fee cut. Yeah. He's getting 10% plus 95% on the fee cut too. So he's the person to aspire to be.
I don't know. It's got to be someone in the community, right?
It's funny that all these like whales are just like completely anonymous.
Yeah.
Don't want to talk to you. Don't want to be known.
Sure, and that's their choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I wonder if like the graph would be the place where like you could query it and be like, who are my delegators? Because I see there was this like Hubble thing, but that's no longer working. It seems like since the Arbitrum migration, they haven't like kept up with it.
You can query it on the graph.
I would like to.
You can. Okay, good.
If anyone has a query that we can use, that would be awesome. Because I'm not capable of.
I do. I'm trying to put it in the.
Oh, awesome. Because I'd like to just know how many delegators I have. Because I noticed that like when it first happened, I got a couple small ones, and then I got a big one, and then I may have gotten another couple, just the small ones. But I just have no idea how many people are even delegated to me. I would just be interesting to know. Necessarily need to know who they are, but just kind of curious to see.
I hit control, like I looked at the Explorer page and I hit control save, so it should lock the delegator in for a while.
Garden State, I just want to mention your website's down.
Oh yeah, and I never put it up. I like bought the domain, and I guess this will be my motivation to actually put something up.
There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. I figured it out. But it'd be really cool if we can see that, how to query it through the graph. That'd be like my first time actually using it.
You just put it in there, and I'm such a yeah, I'm not technical enough to even understand what I'm looking at here.
Oh, interesting. So you have, this is activation, deactivation round, last active update round. But does it show the stake size? Or is it just...
Yeah, bonded amount.
Number active transcoders, 100. Wait, what?
For Ftkuhsman, this query is for you?
Yeah, if you just change the ETH address to your own.
Mine just shows up as blank.
Unbond event. Unbond. Wait, how do you use this thing?
I'm glad I'm not the only one that has no idea what I'm looking at here. Okay.
You put the query, so it's the playground, right? So you put the query that I posted over in the left side, and then you hit execute query in the on the right side or in the middle.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see. I have to actually copy your query. Okay.
Yeah, you gotta copy the query in there.
I just queried whatever was in there, and then I was like, "Why is there so much information?"
That's just the example query.
For some reason, mine it's not
Oh, there you go. Okay, bonded amount 9.9, 43,000. Boom! Look at that baby. Boom! Yeah, that'll do it. So then you have one. Oh, someone's got 10,000 too. Oh, so this is.
Titan, will you make a video on this? I still don't know how that listing works.
Honestly, if you can query this on the graph, this shouldn't be hard to create a website to do this.
Wait, so which query are you copying?
Is you copy the one in the event chat and you just replace the ETH address.
Oh, there's one in the event chat that I'm not seeing. Is that the problem?
Yeah, there's the query below it.
Oh, okay. I jumped the gun there. Okay, now I understand.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I was just like searching through, going, "Why isn't? What am I looking at?"
Weird. If you look up anybody's but mine, mine doesn't show up with anything, but everybody else is showing up.
Yours shows up for me.
What? Nonsense.
What's interesting is, does this include all the delegators from layer 1? Because on layer 1, I had something like 48 delegators.
Oh, that would make sense as to why mine doesn't actually show anything.
Because I had a lot of delegators on layer 1, but this is not. This can't be showing them all because.
Maybe it's because since they were already there, like I don't know if there has to be a new bond event for it to show up on the Arbitrum chain.
Right. Bonded
amount. I'm seeing my self stake from before L2.
Transfer.
Wow, one of my bonded amounts is literally the lowest, like 2 of the lowest decimal place you could do.
Yeah, I think I have one of those too.
Yeah.
What?
It's where that address doesn't exist.
I really thought I had a couple of small delegators, but it looks like it is just the grant. Interesting.
Yeah, see, I don't.
Than I thought.
Yeah, so I think this must just be, is this yeah, this is Arbitrum only. Right, so this isn't going to include bond, because unless you claimed your tokens on Arbitrum, there's not going to be a transaction.
Okay.
So these are only delegators who have claimed, I think.
So you're only going to see new delegations.
Yeah, you're only going to see active delegators, really. Because like I said, there's a lot less here than before, which is fine, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, at least we got something now.
Okay, at least
Thank you so much for doing that. I mean, I was like,
Yeah,
I had no idea how to find this. So, and all my
Very cool.
delegators are from after the word. So for me, this works great. I mean, with the exception of my outside delegation of a very small amount. So, and that one I know. So I've got all mine here.
Cool. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, that's some really interesting stuff, because then you can go back through their accounts and kind of see how active and how long ago they've been active. So it's interesting.
It's a little tricky to make those queries and like filter for what you want, but
Hey, this is a lot further than I got. Like when I spent like a whole, I don't know, afternoon trying to figure out some way to find this info. So I appreciate it.
I could also share a script that basically queries the blockchain through Python and Web3 Python, and basically takes all the bond events and transfers or translates that to a readable format. I mean, I once even had set up a bot that notifies me when someone bonded or unbonded, but I got rid of that. But I mean, essentially, I can share the script, and with some if statements, you can basically do that.
Oh, that'd be great. We always appreciate Vires' tools. He's got so many great ones.
Yes.
Without them, I'd be completely lost, especially without like the setup of Grafana and Prometheus. I'd just be like looking at this node, and I'd be like, "What is it doing?" So.
Oh, I mean, without Grafana, I don't know if I'd still be here. I mean, it gives me something to look at.
Papa Bear is the Grafana master. He's just wizarding it up over there.
No. I just hack together other people's stuff and I'll just stick it into one big panel. I think Marco's taken over the lead on making all the cool new stuff. But if it wasn't for Ultima Ratio, I'd still be using the original one. So
Mine's all in disarray. I've given up.
yeah, yours is pretty ugly, I have to say.
I know.
I checked yours out after you got your stake to see what you're doing. I was like, Jesus Christ, I doesn't even look at this thing, man. You got all this blank space there. Like,
I know. I don't want to. Yeah. After I started adding like different regions, I'm like, I'm not fixing this. Not right now.
If it works for you, it works for you. But oof, man,
it doesn't
tough
work
to look
for
at
me.
for me. Yeah.
I mean,
it does or
this
doesn't.
delegator does not mind, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm good enough for that.
All right, cool.
We're all sitting here looking up our delegators. Okay, yeah, carry on.
Do we want to cover any topics before we close out? I think we've covered most things. I had one topic about. I was thinking about writing up a quick article on multiple ways to improve the delegated distribution of stake. One was something we've already talked about, which is the trailing 90-day ROI, and listing orchestrators by that rather than by ETH fees, because I've noticed Authority Null is like, or no, who is it? I don't know. Somebody's like was feeding themselves ETH fees.
Ftkuhsman.
Ftkuhsman, yeah, and like, which is totally cool. I mean, he's just doing what he's doing, and like, but yeah, I mean, you could just set your fee cut to 100%, feed yourself 100 ETH, and you'll be number one on the board for quite a while. So that could be gamed or whatever, but you really can't game a 90-day ROI because If you did that, the ROI wouldn't change because they have their fee cut as 100%. So I was thinking, obviously that would be a good way of like organizing people based on their ROI. And then that way, when you set your fee cut to 0, this also fixes the fee cut to 0 thing, or the reward cut to 0, because if your trailing 90-day ROI is the best in the ecosystem, and you're number 1 on the leaderboard because you've won tickets and you're calling daily reward and all these things, then people will see that you don't need to have 0% reward cut in order to get these returns. And so people won't necessarily be seeking 0%. They'll be seeking highest 90-day ROI. And those people aren't going to necessarily have 0% cuts. Right? So there's that thought process. And then the other one is like, I still don't understand why we don't have by default the ability to stake to multiple orchestrators under one account. And I know you can create multiple wallets and like delegate to more nodes, but like who actually wants to do that? That's like, and like if you have $1 million, do you really want to put them into like paper wallets or subdirectories and manage those? And it's just like, no whale wants to do that. They want it all in one place. So those are 2 of my thoughts. One is a simple fix, one is a complicated fix.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm very
obviously,
curious.
I was going to say, the other thing too is that I think that, I think people see like, 0, 1% or 4%. Like it really doesn't make a huge difference in your actual return too. So it's kind of, when people are just shopping for that lowest, reward cut, I mean, the amounts are really not. They don't translate the way I think that most people think that they do, unless you're very familiar with the protocol and how it works.
Yeah, for example, like right now I think we're seeing, I don't know if this is just random or whatever, but right now the cuts are, I just fucking replace, it's like anywhere between like 25 and 30% that I'm seeing. Like if you go and like test delegate to somebody, it's 29.95, right? And that's with a 0% cut. But if you were to go, I'm 29.95%, right? You go to Vires at 4%, and I put in the same amount, that goes to 28.75%. So in like the grand scheme of it, it's so tiny, right? But like if you look at 4%, like honestly, up until recently, I thought 4% means if I'm taking 10%, you're taking 4, I'm getting 6. No, I don't want that, right? But if you like put it into that microscopic, like it really doesn't affect you that much. It kind of makes the fees a little less intimidating.
And that's my point, that I think that,
Yeah.
most people don't realize, like how, when you're talking just, a percent or 2, it really is not a big difference.
I'm curious to see
if there was...
what Livepeer is going to do with the rework, because I think they asked for some feedback like once or twice, but like we haven't seen like any kind of sneak peek or like, hey, what do you guys think about us putting this in or whatever. So I'm curious as to if it's like how it's going to look in the end. It could be great or it could be completely like, I don't know what the point was.
The other way to do it is maybe instead of having it as a 5% cut or a 0% cut, what you can do is you can put that, that how it says 29%. You put the 29% there, and then you deduct the 5% that the orchestrator would take and display that number instead of the fee cut. And then someone goes, oh, hey, look, this person gives me 29%, this person gives me 28.5%. You know what? They're pretty much the same. I'm not going to make this a big deal.
Yeah.
And instead of, oh, this person takes 0%, this person takes 5%, well, that's a significant difference, right?
That's my point exactly. Yeah.
So
Again, we're familiar with it, and a lot of us still barely understood that until recently. So I mean, imagine like someone who just has some LPT and they come to put it on there. I mean, I think most people. Well, I don't know about most, but a good portion of delegators probably don't understand how it actually works.
I've done fee structures for other things with people before, and it was like if I'm gonna do this for you, that's gonna be 5 or 10% of what your profit is for the year, and they're like, well, that's ridiculous. Like hedge funds, they take 1 or 2%. I'm like, yeah, they take 1 or 2% of your total account balance. Like that's not a profit. I was like, that's two drastically different things. One is way smaller than the other, and it's unless you're like educated properly on it. Like even like if 5%, you're like 5% of the whole amount. That's nuts. Like no, it's 5% of what you receive, which turns out to be a little bit minuscule at the end. So if you're not educated on it, it could be a way drastic different viewpoint.
yeah, I think those items can be fixed pretty easily.
Oh, for sure.
And still be relative. Yeah. Anyway,
the graph has that issue as well. Like people had to go and create spreadsheets to go and figure out like what is your real ROI, because they still don't list what your ROI is for going with a certain indexer. So like you don't really know. Like they have like fee cut reward. They have like something similar to what this has here. But they have like no real like APR or APY on if you go with this person or this person. So you have to like go to a different someone's spreadsheet and figure it out there. Kind of annoying.
It'd be a really simple fix. Is you put the display the fee cut in brackets, 5%, but as the main number, you just take the number that you get as your projected yearly income that you get from entering into the delegate and stake little terminal there. And so then what it shows is 28.5%, and then in brackets 5% fee. And then what it does is it separates it, going, oh hey, look, the 5% fee barely affects this, right? And so now a 0% cut or a 5% cut just means so much less, because it gives you the absolute value that you're expected to return. Because 90-day trailing ROI is tough because people win tickets and it'll just jump around a lot. But like it obviously still can be done. But I think just the way they display the fee cut is very tough.
Until you start actually getting like a consistent, like, I mean, if it ever got to the point, which I'm hoping 6 months, a year from now, if we could get fees to sub 10 cents or whatever for a reward call or ticket claim or something like that, then you can then turn the ticket quantity down to like $25, and then for most people doing Livepeer with a decent amount of streams, like your daily expected Ethereum is somewhere around $10-$20. That person could be winning a ticket every day or two or multiple times a day, and then you're actually having like a consistent payout. Because the way it was on layer 1 was there was people that are like, I've been here for 6 months and I haven't gotten a single ticket, and then there was people that are like, I started yesterday and I have 2. Like it was so all over the place. That makes it hard to trail for sure. But if you can get more consistency, higher numbers, that would become viable.
I think the simplest way to start is just, I'm going to put forward a little article on improvements for better stake distribution. And I'm going to give three arguments. The first is displaying the fee cut total percentage, rather than the fee cut as like, I don't know if I'm saying this right. Display the total expected ROI, rather than the fee cut. something simple like that.
Mhm.
So the comparison between Vires and Papa Bear, Vires has got 4%, Papa Bear's got 0. The difference is 29.5 versus 29, right? And then so people look at those and go, oh, okay, that my ROI is hardly changing. Rather than, and they already have that embedded because they already do the calculation, so it shouldn't be that difficult. That's literally just moving one piece, and because I know Adam works on it a lot, and like he doesn't want extra work for himself to make complicated algorithms, and he has to save data and query complicated things. If you can just move one piece from another, he really enjoys those updates, and he pushes them pretty quick. The other is a trailing ROI option, which would be more complicated, and then the most complicated with multi-node delegation, which is rewriting smart contracts, which I suspect will be not in favor from almost the whole team.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people do you think really would want to delegate with more than one orchestrator? I mean, what are you gaining by doing that?
If you look, like, if you were to look at people who have a ton of stake, delegating to across the board, like for example, if it really does come down to where fees are the main way of payment, someone who has, like, there's diminishing returns on that, right? Like, if you have $200,000 staked to somebody and that person is winning a ticket every 10 days or so, then you're still taking a percentage of that, but you're not gaining as much as you would if you had taken that and split that out to 5 people, and then now they're winning tickets every 5 days, and now you're getting fees on those 5 people, and it's distributed a little bit better because you still might be the biggest delegator to that person's orchestrator. So that could be one way.
I think I just know, like, when you go to Polkadot network, you are encouraged to stake up to 8 different nodes, and the reason obviously is just for distribution of stake. But what you get to do is you get to support people you like, more support than right. Like, you might like 2 people, but you got to choose, right? And so the nice thing is you get to choose 3 types of people you like. Oh, I like this guy because he's philanthropic. I like this guy because he's doing green energy, and I like this guy because he does, he lives in my area, lives in the same country. And so you get a people like that they get to support the people that they, and some people will only want to delegate to one, and that's fine. And some people will want to delegate to all 100 orchestrators and collect it as an index, right? So, but
no, that actually makes sense. I thank you. That actually that makes it clear in my head, because I was just thinking, like, I don't know, just kind of pick the best one and go with them, who you think is the best. But yeah, it's kind of also, I guess it's also similar to, like, you don't, I mean, if you're investing in the stock market, you can invest in multiple companies. You don't need a separate wallet to do that. I mean, I know it's still all Livepeer community, but yeah, no, that what you said makes a lot of sense, and makes it easier for me to understand. Thank you.
The only problem with the multi-node delegation is just the complexity of the smart contract. It goes way up, and that's just
gonna make fees go up for everything too, because it's more calculations.
Yeah, it's more I don't know about the calculations part, because you would just it actually would be more calculations. Hence, the smart contract would just get potentially unnecessarily messy, because you want to unstake from 2 nodes and keep it on one, and it's possible, but like it is a very complicated answer to something that something simpler might be able to fix. So you start with the simple things and then go more complicated from there. So anyway, I'm going to write up a little article on this and see if you guys would like to put some input on it. But anyway, any last topics before we wrap up this water cooler chat?
Yeah, I do actually have a topic, or more so a question for anybody on the call. I posted my test orchestrators test results in the event chat, which is showing zeros across the board, but it's receiving work, which seems super odd to me that a node that would be getting straight zeros for all tests would also receive work. I was just wondering if anybody has ever run into anything like that before.
There's an issue that I actually started about that because I saw that was happening. It was closed, but I saw this morning that there were some comments on it, and I think it'll probably get reopened, and hopefully they'll figure out what's going on there, because you're not the only one.
Ah, okay, cool. I thought it was just that there was one region that everybody was getting zeros, where a lot of people were getting zeros from.
There's several people that I've seen that are getting zeros across the board and still receiving work, and I did write that up. It was again, they did close the issue thinking that it wasn't a big deal, but again, I did see this morning that I can post a link in the event chat with the issue, but I have a feeling it will get addressed. Yeah. And yeah, comment on it, because that'll draw more attention to it as well.
Yep.
Give me a second to find it, but yeah, I will. I'll put that in there in a minute. Yeah, definitely. You're not the only one.
Okay, cool. I just thought I was going a little crazy because I was trying to do geo routing with Azure and seeing how that worked out versus doing it in AWS and Route 53.
It's funny, I'm not seeing it now, so it might have been reopened. But yeah, it'll be in the event chat within the next 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Sure.
All right, everyone. We will wrap it up there. We've been doing this for 2 hours. I appreciate everyone coming to this weekly water cooler chat where we talk about all things Livepeer. Today was a good day. We are seeing what was really interesting was the two water coolers leading up to this was this big, exciting upgrade. We had Yondon join us, and then we had Doug join us. And this is the first water cooler chat after the upgrade. And boy, have things changed. Stake is flying all over the place. Tools are failing. New ideas are coming. More work is on the network in general. Yeah, it's been a wild week. So very exciting. I'm curious to see where we'll hit that equilibrium and settle. So I'm glad everyone here has joined. I appreciate you being here. And I appreciate everyone who's joining in and providing community resources, feedback, conversation, and improving the network as a whole. Together, we are doing a great job of disrupting current industries and providing good services. So once again, I appreciate you being here, and we will see you next week.
Thanks for putting this together. See you guys later.
Thank you.
You guys.